pricing of medical billing. And so that's really the differences. But, operationally speaking, it's the same thing. And that's what we want to achieve, something that really works in the most important markets in the world. So that's the general update. I'll go ahead and answer questions from the community if anyone has any. And I'm looking here at the chat group. Let's see. Looking at questions that Sam is putting up. So doing the switch to Avalanche is not a difficult thing. That's actually a pretty simple thing. The plan was to reissue the token. That comes with it has its pros and cons. Pros, we can eliminate the tokens that are tied up in KuCoin right now. Cons, we probably would have a smaller distribution, and so that could affect potentially trading volume. But then again, I think it's worth it, being that KuCoin is charging so much for people to withdraw their tokens, and it's also they have such a large portion of them. So it's still something that we've solicited from KuCoin to see, and they have ignored many of the requests initially. So the plan is to launch we're planning to launching on Avalanche, the actual token itself, removing what's tied up in KuCoin, and then doing that. And that should be done at the actual launch of the services, because the hashing will be taking place there. And that's the purpose of it. Can we rebrand to DOC token when mainnet changes take place simultaneously? The actual ticker itself, there's no issue with renaming the ticker to DOC. I also believe that's a good thing. We can definitely rebrand the ticker. What essentially will happen will be that we'll take a screenshot of the wallets and calculate the amount of wallets that are outside of KuCoin, calculate that amount, and just replicate that amount into the new token. We still have to resolve the issue of people who have tokens within KuCoin. We receive requests from people that have in the millions of tokens inside KuCoin, and they haven't been able to get their tokens out. So before we go ahead with that screenshot, we're going to try to get KuCoin to release tokens, the tokens to us, and we'll just make this public. So support from the community will be necessary once we kick that off. But I think we can start with a post this weekend after we have the airing, and tell KuCoin publicly on Twitter that we have to find a solution to getting the massive amount of tokens out. And I think that's the first step. Once we find out what they say, because they've already rejected the previous offers, solutions that we provided, we'll see what they say. And if they say there's no way, then we can just take the screenshot and issue a new token on Avalanche. Let's see, how many shares of the company will be given away to get funding as a result of the merge? Well, at this stage, it's less than 10%. But like I said, it has a Reg A approved, so that means more shares will be sold. But it's really more dependent on the valuation, and the valuation that we can justify based on our projections and our business model and the data that we have based on our previous users, prescriptions that were given out, and to our users from our services previously, and the population data and claims data that we have for each of the states where we're launching, that valuation was over 300 million. Then again, really the valuations are determined based on how much capital can be raised, and we don't need an enormous amount of capital. What we need to do is ensure that there's revenues coming in from the launch, and that justifies that valuation because we can project out growth to multiple states where we already have the market study done. So the idea is to actually we projected out, I think in the last AMA I showed the roadmap for the 5 states that we're launching in, and our plan is obviously to expand as fast as possible within a controlled setting to more states in the U.S., and that would justify a higher valuation. So if we can get to that quickly, then, and it's still within the Reg A, the plan is to keep on raising more capital with the Reg A, and then change it to a Tier 2, and that'll give us more capital so we can essentially spend more money on digital marketing to acquire more users. So that's how we have everything modeled out. It's in the telemedicine space, the customer acquisition costs are quite high, just industry standard, even though the business models are different. But you still have to consider what the marketing efforts in the past have achieved. And telemedicine in general is a very high customer acquisition cost endeavor in general. So just because the business models are focused more on insurance and things like that. So we're coming in with a very different business model. It's very disruptive as well. But, it's always been to provide free basic healthcare and use the data to do predictive analysis with artificial intelligence and stuff like that. So we still have all that data, and that's still moving forwards how we're doing things. But our customer acquisition cost, we plan on lowering it dramatically in comparison to the industry standards. And really the capital, whatever capital we raise additionally after covering, operational expenses and loans and things like that, still leaves us with still most of that capital is focused on digital marketing. Almost half of that, if you look at our financial analysis, is focused on user growth through digital marketing. So really the marketing team is focused on lowering that customer acquisition cost, and that can happen through many ways. So one of them, which I mentioned previously, is, for example, the show on TV and all the rooms in the hotel rooms. That could lower our customer acquisition costs alone if we were able to acquire users from that show, for example, instead of doing digital marketing. Digital marketing is just a straight, you pay X amount and you get a user, and you have kind of a direct relationship that you can measure of the cost of acquiring a user. So the objective is to lower that customer acquisition cost as much as possible, below $50. So let me go to question number 4. What is happening to the volume on Bitrue? Volume on Bitrue, there's we were using a market maker, and we're going to start that up again. Then again, we have to consider the fact that there's a new token that has to be reissued. So, and the situation with KuCoin. So this weekend we'll see what KuCoin says, and then we'll make the decision after that based on what they say on whether we reissue the token and submit the new token, because it has to be a new smart contract submitted to Bitrue. If we do that, then it'd be best to restart with a market maker, and after that issuing happens. So that's the reason there's low volume right now, is because the market maker stopped in November because of our plans. And we'll get that. I mean, we'll always have a market maker working at least, but we have to resolve the new issuing of the token first. So the plan is to reissue a token and change the ticker to DOC, but also those things have to go through the process at the exchange itself, where they have to approve it, and you have to send them the new contract address, and people have to get their tokens distributed. So we'd have to distribute the new token to all the wallets that we take the screenshot of. Let's see. When can we expect DEX setup and pools? Could we avoid this on ETH? Start processing AVAX from the beginning. Oh yes, definitely. Anything DEX related would not be done on ETH. What we spoke about before, and Daniel and I worked on this for some time, was we originally were planning on doing a bridge and bridging from ETH to Avalanche. If we issue a new token, though, then we don't have to do a bridge. We just distribute the new token to the current wallets, and everything would just be on Avalanche. So any smart contract development or any pools, or would be on any DEX development in general, would be done on Avalanche, natively, instead of having to bridge it, or having to use a bridge from ETH to Avalanche. I still think that there may be people out there that may have tokens that they want to convert. So that's part of the solution, is having access, or giving access to people like that, saying, well, if you do have tokens, you can either send them to the wallet, or you can bridge them and convert them. But that's part of what has to be decided upon based on what will happen with KuCoin and if we issue a new token or just bridge the current token. So if KuCoin says, you know what, we're going to offer all holders of MTC a way to exit the exchange, then if that happens, then within that time period of the people would have to exit, it would be best for them. The safest and strongest way would be to have KuCoin say, yes, we'll give this option for them to release tokens, and then have everyone that has tokens within KuCoin be able to transfer them out through a bridge onto the Avalanche chain. Is it possible for MTC to reach a $1 billion market cap? Honestly, I can say two things. Anything is possible, but then again, I don't know the future. So, the reality is that we're working very hard, and this has been a big kind of turnaround for the company. Getting all these things done, it's been a lot of work as well. But, we never gave up, and we've all been working very hard, and there's been lots of changes. So, we still have the targets that we originally have, and the target hasn't changed. The method to get there has. And so that's really how we're getting there now. And I think it's a lot stronger now on many levels. So we're not just offering telemedicine services and the crypto economy and doing blockchain hashing for transparency. We have very sensible business models built in now through pharmaceutical sales and an ad server and medical billing, and that gives it a lot of structure and stability to the business model itself. And so potentially, it could be worth way more than that. But then again, the market is very, you never know what the market can do. So, I mean, we've all lived it, let's see. Sandra was asking, why not start educating the community about MTC, or the community itself? I think, the kind of the situation that the world is in right now, I get a lot of questions about crypto, and because of the whole thing that happened last year with FTX, and there's a lot of changes in the mood towards crypto in general. I actually see it as a huge opportunity to educate people and to say, well, what defines a good use case in crypto, and what defines a use case of blockchain technology mostly. And there's several examples out there of things that actually are good use cases. Avalanche has several on them. I've always believed we were probably one of the best use cases out there. But it's still most people that I meet, especially on Wall Street, it's kind of ironic that you're on Wall Street and speaking to investment bankers and stuff, and a lot of them don't even understand what blockchain is in general. They have no clue what the actual technology is itself. So, or how decentralized hashing works. I always have to explain it to them. So it is a great opportunity to educate people. But then again, we have to focus on a few things at once. And part of the reason I wanted to do a 6-part series on TV was to kind of explain and educate people, and mostly not educate them on trading cryptocurrencies or anything like that. Mostly educate them on the reach of blockchain technology and how it can be used for additional transparency. And that's one of the virtues of blockchain. So that's really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about capability of a company. I use a Twitter example a lot, saying, well, Twitter claimed when they were going through the whole process with Elon Musk trying to buy them, Twitter was claiming that 95% of the users were human beings. And most people who use Twitter knew that that couldn't be true. So I use that as a great example because I said, well, if they could hash every time a real person tweeted something and it was accompanied by a blockchain hash, then people would have no doubt as far as the metrics. So as a public company, Twitter was reporting these metrics to the SEC for years, and it's quite amazing that they were reporting these metrics that were obviously not correct. So that's one great use case for blockchain technology, and that's the example that I use when I explain, well, we're actually hashing every time someone gets a consultation and every time we sell a product. And it may seem like a simple thing, but it's very relevant for investors, for the public in general, and for users themselves to know that there's that additional layer of transparency. So I always think if you're an investor, for example, and you have the option to invest in 2 different companies, and one has this additional layer of transparency that every time they sell a product or they give a service, it's accompanied by a decentralized blockchain hash. Well, just because of that additional layer of transparency, it makes it a safer investment because more transparency builds more trust. And that's what I always loved about blockchain, and the fact that we could, hash every time there was a transaction of data. That's how I originally thought about it years ago in 2013 and 2014 when I took the course, the massively online open course that University of Nicosia gave with Andreas Antonopoulos, and I learned about blockchain. I thought, well, this is going to revolutionize at some point how data is transacted, and because of the transparency level and how you can hash it, and it makes it much, much more difficult to manipulate anything with blockchain and decentralization. So, but this is still a very, in many ways, it's still very new to most people, and that's even after over 10 years have passed since blockchain was created, and we're still in many ways in early stages. Most people still don't understand what blockchain is or cryptocurrencies, how they work, there's a lot of misinformation out there as well. There's all these scandals that go around, and some people are more scared of it. But when there's chaos, there's opportunity. So there's still the opportunity to showcase something that's worthwhile. And I want people to see DOC.com not as a cryptocurrency or as a purely blockchain company, I want people to see doc.com for what it truly is, and that's a company that's mission is to provide free basic healthcare, and this is through the use of artificial intelligence and all these additional tools. One of those tools being blockchain technology, and how that compounds the value, and how that also provides more transparency, and how that can also increase revenues and make the whole business model more efficient on many levels, reduce costs and things like that. And that's critical if you want to be offering a service that helps people and is at no cost to them, no out-of-pocket cost. So it's that's, you know, it leading up to that, the explanation to that has to be well structured. People have to understand the base business model first and how these technologies are adding value to the whole. And that's what I'm talking about in the media. And it's a very cool thing at the Nasdaq. When I was there, Jane King, who was the one who interviewed me, she's very well known from CNBC. She's in the picture there that I posted to the community a few days ago. Her and the people that I met at the Nasdaq that work there, they're very excited about what's to come with blockchain related companies, because it's very innovative and it's very disruptive. And you know, some of the things they told me that they had seen, mostly focused on fintech. They're very interesting things that are coming out, and these are companies that are either already public or going to be public. They really haven't seen much in the healthcare space, and that's why they were so interested in stuff. But that, generally speaking, there's a very good feeling about blockchain technology. So the investment banks always kind of recommend to say, don't use the word cryptocurrencies, use the word blockchain, and because they kind of put everything in a single box and they think it's the same thing, but in reality it's not. You know, blockchain itself, the underlying technology, has a much larger reach than just cryptocurrencies. So I try to explain the virtues of using blockchain in many ways to benefit any business model, not just healthcare. But in our case, we're using it to add transparency to healthcare and do things in a better way. So that's how I'm educating people through our PR efforts. Let's see. So advertising. So Sandra's talking about advertising, more focused on the coin itself. Well, look, one of the main things that I've learned, especially working with the investment banks these past nearly 8 months since I've been preparing the company for all this, it's been a lot of work. Any kind of promotion to raise value, I mean, what the correct way of going about any type of promotion, especially with public companies, is, first of all, you have to be very transparent. Second of all, you have to have a lot of awareness of the rules. And you know, I can never promise or say that the price of anything, the stock or coin or anything, will be at a certain point. What I have to do, and what the team has to do, what we all have to do at doc.com, is explain what we're actually doing and how we're executing, and really let the results speak for themselves. So that's why it's taken so much work to get to this point, because in order to let's say convince the investment banks, they're playing under the same rules, for example, and the public, you know, we have to follow the rules that the law states. And really, I mean, you can think about how things are communicated in the media and stuff like that, but really what it comes down to is results. So if you can show results, if you can show the utility, and if you can show constant progress, growth, for example, which we already have an amazing growth plan just because there's so much places to grow our business model. If we can show that we're expanding as we had done in the past, I mean, we went about doing it in the past much more rapidly than what we're planning now. But then again, our business was it didn't have as many components as we have now. We have more components to the business model now, which makes it much more stable, much more sustainable, but it requires a slower growth process than in comparison to before. It's not to say that it's slow in general. It's just saying that in comparison to before, it's a slower growth process. But those are the results that I want to be talking about and showcasing, and let the market decide. I'll let the market decide on what the value of that means. But really, that should be determined based on the utility of it, and a big part of it is making more shareholders aware, making the public more aware to increase the shareholder base. And that really comes from doing a good job at marketing and PR, which we already know. At least I know I'm very confident with our capabilities in doing that. My own capability and the teams as well, and what we have access to, and the support that we have for our cause from people in governments, people in Hollywood, people that are willing to help out because of our social cause. So that's the kind of results I want to be showing. I don't want to be hyping up anything. What I want to do is I want to show the results. I think that those are kind of results that no one really has, at least in this space. So that's where I think it'll come down to. Now, taking that in consideration, assuming, let's say, we show the results that we're expecting to show in the next 3 to 6 months, common sense states that it should have a positive effect in general for the value of a company. And if we're going out and telling people, hey, invest in our company, we have a Reg A to invest in our company. If we're doing that, then it should be a worthwhile investment because it makes sense, and because the numbers make sense, and because the results make sense. So that's generally what we're focused on doing right now, and it's a correct path to do it in, and it's also the reason why they allowed me to speak at the Nasdaq. I mean, think about it like this: not many companies can go to the Nasdaq floor and saying, well, we're launching our services, we changed our business model, but we're still pursuing the same mission, and we went through all this history and all this stuff and all these ups and downs and the pandemic and we have blockchain component and crypto and this and that. I mean, if you were to see other companies that have spoken at the Nasdaq, for example, they don't really let companies do that have those things. But in our case, they did, and they love it. Why? Because the end goal, providing free basic healthcare and combining these business models and tools into one, make it a worthwhile endeavor moving forwards, and it's something that people agree upon, and that's kind of that's one of our strengths. And so that's what I'm talking about. Basically, that's what I'm talking about in the media, and it's not just blockchain itself. And like I said, we don't want to be considered. We're a healthcare company, and that's how we should be considered. And so, adding additional tools. I think I hope everyone here has tried ChatGPT recently. I don't know if anyone's seen ChatGPT, but it is incredible. If you ever remember the first time you tried Google, a lot of people don't remember. I kind of vaguely remember the first time I tried Google. I was, 15 years old or something. But ChatGPT is an amazing AI tool. And we see a lot of things that we can be using their ChatGPT 3, algorithm basically to enhance what we can do with doc.com and our services. And, that may become, we're already talking about now of integrating it into several things. That may become one of the most used tools in the next year for us, that would be more widely used than blockchain. Then again, blockchain itself has many additional uses, and we plan on adding more metrics that are blockchain-backed metrics to our services down the road. So we're starting with hashing of consultations and hashing of product sales. Well, we can still add it to when there's a certain data transactions. We already know we're adding it to blockchain tracing, so of the products themselves. So it's different from hashing. When a sale happens, there's a hash there. So that's a publicly verifiable metric that's positive that we're starting off with. But the plan is to have full blockchain tracing of pharmaceuticals. And there's already laws that have been promoted in place that require tracing of pharmaceuticals to prevent tampering and things like that. But really the ultimate solution to the most transparent one and the best one out of all is having blockchain tracing. So you can actually trace from the moment it was manufactured, there's a hash. When it's sent over to a distribution center, there's a hash. When it's sent out to a patient, there's a hash, and you can track that whole process. And that's a stage after our launch. That's a stage where we're adding that, but still blockchain can be applied to many things. And generally, I want people to understand that whatever we're doing at doc.com, we're doing to achieve the ultimate goal for us, which is to provide a free form of basic health care and to optimize it with artificial intelligence, create basically a artificial intelligence doctor to a degree that's never been seen before, and still have that transparency, but with the end goal, the mission of allowing more people to have access to free basic healthcare services. So, and that can come in through the use of all these technologies all at once. So, we may say down the road, hey, you know what? There's this new technology to produce pills, for example, and we're going to be adding that. So, there's some we're merging these assets that we have, and that makes sense because they are pharmaceutical drugs and artificial intelligence tools that are focused on specific niches, but they make sense with our business model. And we see many other assets out there that would be very beneficial to add to doc.com. And some are technologies, others are licenses, but they're different parts of the world as well. But in the end, it's better to add these things. But if you understand my logic in making some of these decisions, we make group decisions, but I'll give you one example with the cancer drug that we have. The cancer drug, there's a lot of people that suffer from cirrhosis and from liver cancers. And there's a lot of impoverished people that suffer from cirrhosis and liver cancers. Primarily because of drinking problems and, genetics. But this drug is an adenosine-based drug. And even though developing drugs is not our main focus, it still complements it perfectly, especially for us giving services to low-income individuals. So we have this drug that we're going to be developing, and it's got 2 patents already. It's coming under as an asset of doc.com. It has to go through its own process, but the end goal is to offer that drug to people who need it at a significantly reduced cost to competing drugs for people who have cirrhosis and stuff. And many of those patients we can provide directly ourselves through our services. So that's why it makes sense. But it requires its own development and its own budget, basically. So those are kind of assets that we're adding, but they're also very valuable down the road. So that's what we'll be doing. Let me run through here more of the questions. What's the app called on Play Store? It's just DOC app. I'll post a link here for everyone in a moment. Good jobber. I'm seeing here one from Gene. Person to the topic. Oh, so Gene is suggesting that I go on CNBC. That's also in the plans. It's all towards the buildup. Yeah, it definitely helps having been interviewed by Jane. A lot of people on Wall Street are like, "Oh, Jane interviewed you." You know, she's very well known from CNBC and Bloomberg. Okay, so what is a future virtue use case of MTC? Nibbler asked that question. That's a very good question. So really the base use case, the easiest one is transparency. But really after that, you can use the same hashing capability to do rewards and to really develop and grow a crypto economy. So people can say, well, we have, which is essentially rewards. When I say that, it's more, you can imagine a rewards system like what American Express has with their points. So when I say just transparency, that's one use case for it, and it's a very solid use case. But also, as we have done in the past, when we give out consultations and there's a data acquisition through that, we can reward users, and it's done all with the same coin. So that's part of the use case additionally down the road. And the last stage of it, which is something that we work, Daniel and I, with developers to do, is the decentralized data storage and having that be part of the one of the main use cases for MTC, or the coin in general, whether it's called MTC or DOC at the end. And that would require the token to be staked in order for you to be a node, to be part of the decentralized data storage. So that's the ultimate goal, and that's what we originally set out to do. And there's still nothing like that in the healthcare space. So those are really the three main use cases. But with those three, it's enough. And with blockchain transparency as a start, and the coin used for that, there's already transactions happening, and that's a good starting use case for it. Throughout the years, how we originally planned on going about it, years ago, back in 2018, things changed dramatically because there were no DeFi builds out yet at the time, and now that facilitates. It's much more facilitated to build these things out. So it changed. We were planning on doing our own blockchain initially, which is a huge amount of work. There's a lot of security that you have to consider and stuff. But now it's so those are those are three use cases: transparency, rewards, and then eventually decentralized storage of data. And which would be done not on our own blockchain, but we would be hashing it on a different blockchain, but the token would still be linked to the data storage and the data acquired through doc.com patients through doc.com. And those would be the three use cases. And with those three use cases, there's enough transactions, there's basically enough intrinsic value built into it. So it gives us that base value that I always talked about that we have to have. But really it's focused on executing it in stages, and the first and lowest hanging fruit use case is doing it for transparency. Let's see, I'm going to look at another question here. Yeah, the bridge, Sam, I'm seeing. JP saying, will Doc be using nurse practitioners? Yes, actually, our model is already built in with nurse practitioners. If anyone used our services previously within the U.S., you would get both doctors and nurse practitioners. So it's a mix of doctors and nurse practitioners. We can call them healthcare providers in general, and there's also psychologists. So really, it's doctors, nurse practitioners, and psychologists. In the U.S., nurse practitioners, I believe in most states, can prescribe medication, and that's really where it comes down to. So our services are primary healthcare services. We're not specializing, and that's why, essentially, from a primary care perspective, you should be able to get the same kind of primary care from a doctor or general practitioner than you would from a nurse practitioner. They should be able to diagnose primary care things the same way. And so that's, we're definitely using nurse practitioners. Outside of the US, in Mexico, for example, there the bulk are doctors. Nurses cannot prescribe, in a country like Mexico, for example, medication. So outside of the US, it's a different scenario where we have mostly doctors, as we have in the past, but that's how it works. Let's see. Let's see. Tommy, thank you. Great that you're on here. I'm looking at more questions here. Is Daniel still with the team? Well, Daniel has always been, he's our, his title is the Director of Digital Asset Strategy. And he's always been extremely helpful, and I hope his involvement increases as time goes by. But yeah, he's definitely, we still talk, regularly. Let's see. Making purchases using MTC in the marketplace discounted. Okay, that's well, of course, those are additional use cases. I guess they would be considered under what I meant by rewards. So when I say rewards, it essentially means that for doing something within doc.com, you're rewarded. That reward can be either used for purchases on the marketplace, or anything related to the decentralized aspects of it, staking or putting in a pool or whatever. But that stems from the reward mechanism. So that is a use case, additional use case, or I guess it would be part of that same use case, but just more in depth. So definitely, you can transfer between users as well. Obviously, it's all decentralized. Donate, of course, all of that. Yeah, and this is also I'm referencing, for those who are not reading the chat group, Relbin posted several additional use cases, and those are the use cases that you have mentioned on there. They're very viable use cases. They're really, from a development standpoint, don't require huge amounts of development because it comes down to smart contracts, and they're decentralized. But they still have to be done to a certain extent. You have to, especially as a public company, you have to be very clear on how these things go about and how they're executed. So it's just something that we have to be on top of and understand that how we're executing these things in stages and ensuring that they're compliant with laws and things like that. So, but they're all very possible to do, and especially if they're done all decentralized with decentralized wallets. Let's see. I'm reading more questions here. What are the chances? Oh, I need to connect my laptop to charge. 1 moment. What are the chances? Sorry, I just had to connect my laptop here to the charger. It was running on low on battery. What are the chances of meeting Elon Musk? Or one of our contacts can provide that. Um, I'd love to do. I mean, I'd love to meet him. I admire him greatly. I think you could call me a Elon Musk fanboy for sure. Uh, Especially I went after going to Stanford. When I went to Stanford and I met Reed and Chris Ye and John Lilly and all the people that went to the Stanford course to give us classes, which are essentially Silicon Valley gurus. Reed, for example, was a partner of Elon Musk and PayPal. So, I mean, I've always been a huge fan of what they call the PayPal mafia, and I'd love I'd love to meet them. But really, I don't think it's. I mean, meeting people has always been something that, because of what we do, has been facilitated to me. And I've met a lot of great people, very important people, presidents and kings, and very renowned business people, etc. But right now, our focus is on what we have with the plan at hand. I don't think it would make any difference if I met Elon Musk or something. It potentially could be worthwhile from a PR perspective, but that is all. That's all just PR at the end. It's more important to execute right now. So we're focused on that. Once we have results and we can keep on growing like that, then we can see what other paths. But there's just so much support already from celebrities and things like that I think it's we'll see what path how the path evolves. But I'd love to at some point, and I'd love for Doc to be the healthcare service of SpaceX. Now it's always we've had talks about that. It'd be awesome. Your comment on Doc's new drug is new. Go into FDA's. Yeah. So Gene is asking in reference to the Doc's drug. So we started. Our first drug that we acquired licenses for was an antiviral drug for COVID. Then after that experience, we started pursuing getting more licenses to produce and distribute additional drugs. And this is really mostly focused on generics and things that we can acquire quickly. But because of that process, and one of the benefits of having had that experience and the public knowing about it, when we did the announcements for the antiviral drug, it brought attention from other researchers and companies and things that have their own drugs that they want to develop or grow. And there was a group of them that were offered to us. I took the one that I think the best one out of all of them was this cancer drug. It's an adenosine-based drug. It's had, nearly 20 years of development. It has preclinicals already. It's ready to go to clinical trials. It was offered to me by people I respect a lot, from Mexico, that are all university researchers, and it's kind of their pride and joy. It's one of their pride and joys, this drug, and they really wanted someone that would focus on getting the drug to as many people as possible that need it and not charge an exorbitant amount. So if you look at traditional treatments right now, or drug treatments for cirrhosis, there are treatments out there that reduce it dramatically. or reduce it, significantly. But treatments are $40,000 or more. Some of them are $100,000. And this is just literally a treatment schedule with these pills over a certain amount of time. Now, does that make sense? I mean, I just think that it's just, obviously people willing to pay for it. There's someone that's, is going to take advantage of that. But I just think that if we can get a drug that's, I'm not saying not be profitable, but something that's still much more accessible to people in lower incomes, and just focus more on volume instead of kind of selling it just to a certain group of people that are willing to pay a higher price for it. So it's very in line with our philosophy of trying to get our services to the most amount of people as possible. And we plan on offering the drug at a much, much lower price point than anything else that's out there for cirrhosis or for cancers. But essentially what the drug does, it's an adenosine-based drug. And adenosine is one of the 4 components that makes up DNA. So there's still a lot more research that needs to be done into all these molecules. But this research was started particularly with this type of molecule, many years ago, nearly 20 years ago. And what it shows is that you can deliver the way the delivery mechanism is of adenosine to the cells, kind of kicks off this kind of regenerative process. And that's what the preclinicals have shown. And there's over 1,000 patients that have used it already. And they've had success, a high success rate with reducing dramatically the tumors and regenerating, helping regenerate liver cells. And that's where I thought, wow, this can be huge, because cirrhosis is a very big problem. It's a larger problem than a lot of people think. Just think of, usually cirrhosis takes years to kind of come into effect. And we've had a lot of patients from our services that already had partial, or already had cirrhosis up to a certain extent because of years of drinking, or they had some genetic predisposition to it. And I just thought, wow, this is something that really can apply to a lot of the patients or their family members that we treat ourselves. So I saw many benefits in that, and so did our team. And that's why it's such a good drug. Now, if you look at it purely from an economic perspective, even if we're charging a lower price point, the value of having a patented drug is very, very high. And that's, you can base that on the biotech model that Wall Street uses for drugs that go through FDA approval. So usually they calculate these things. They say, well, what's a total addressable market for this drug? And they say, well, if 1 million people in the US have cirrhosis and each one is paying $40,000 for a treatment, that gives us a number of X amount, and that's the total addressable market. So these are obviously considering that if it were already approved by the FDA, but the total addressable market for this drug is enormous. And it adds value as an asset for doc.com. And it's also something that's very beneficial for people. And it doesn't cause severe side effects, or it doesn't have anything crazy like that. It's just a drug that works. It's based on the right science and, a lot of research. And that's one that we're pursuing, that we're part of the budget. And the whole merger process is going to putting that through an FDA approval process and clinical trials. So it's an asset of doc.com that requires its own development and time frame, but it's still an asset of doc.com. And once that's done, it can be sold directly to doc.com patients and outside of doc.com. But it's in the end, it's an asset that the company has, and it's very valuable to have things like that. Let's see. Yeah, so Gene is saying it's FDA by that I mean clinical trials, and the pulmonary asset also requires FDA approval, which is the Australian asset that's given to us by this Australian public company. That also requires FDA approval, and that was their main reason for doing this merger. It made sense for us to do this merger because of the fact that we all want to go through this FDA approval process. And it's easier to get the capital from the investment banks and from increased shareholder base for FDA approval. So that's it's essentially a diagnostic tool that uses artificial intelligence to determine pulmonary pathologies, and it helps doctors diagnose much more efficiently and faster and much and better. So those require also clinical trials. So they all have their FDA approval process, but anything that goes into phase 1 clinical trials, it passes that hump, which is I think the hardest hump in the FDA approval process. Once you're in there, then you go to stage 2, stage 3, etc. These are both like kind of prepped to go right into stage 1. So they already have preclinicals. There's a lot of data and research already done. So that was the kind of things that made it very good for us to have these assets, because of the fact that we can push them we can submit them to FDA trials relatively quickly in comparison to other things.
Can you hear me okay, Charles?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that Gene?
Uh-huh.
How are you?
Good. Good report. I just wanted to say about Elon, I know that he interviews every single employee applicant, not just the employees, but everyone that applies at SpaceX, for example. And so anything that relates to him and his companies, he's very interested in talking to even the low-level clerk that wants a job as a clerk at his company. And I think that what you have to offer through doc.com, I think you can set an appointment with him, being the head of the CEO of doc.com, to discuss with him simply that you want his guidance on his ideas where he sees you have great opportunities. He's an individual that's not just greedy to make his own companies perfect and grow them, but he's also interested in helping the community. So I think that he would likely be glad to discuss with you. He's got this work with AI. That alone is enough for you, in my opinion, to talk with him where he sees it.
I'd love to talk. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
I would love to talk with him.
We'll set up an appointment with tell him in his office that you want to meet with him to discuss the importance of AI to Doc and where that might go, and where he sees that as some benefit that he needs to discuss with you, because maybe he wants, hey, this is great for my cars. Maybe he sees an avenue that, hey, I want this for SpaceX, for the Mars mission. He's going to have ideas like that is not just about helping you, but is about being synergistic. So I really think that you have an open door there. You just have to unlock that key, unlock it. Just make the appointment and let him decide whether he wants to meet with you or not. And just base your little speech to whoever you send at the office enough information that he can say, wow, I need to talk with Charles Nader. Yeah, get me an appointment. So that's my advice.
I mean, look. Oh no, thank you, Gene, for that. Like I said, I'd love to have a meeting with him. And if there's a path to doing that, I'll definitely take it at some point. The thing is, like I mentioned right now, is the priority right now is executing the plan in place, and I want to be able to turn around and say, show people like, hey, you know what? The
Yeah.
services are working. Like, try them out. You know, that's where I want to be at as soon as possible, because I can have lots of meetings, and you know, I've done this in the past. As you all know, if you go onto my Instagram, you can see all the people that I've met, and there's many more that I didn't even post on Instagram. But the good thing is we have access to important people and people that, but usually with someone like him, you have to show up with a a plan and something that is already relevant. If you know, I remember I spoke to CZ once from Binance uh, years ago. You know, 2018. I spoke to him. Binance was growing a lot, and I kind of told him at the time. I said, "Hey, you want to? I want you to help me to expand our services in the Asian region." And he kind of was just like, "Well, you know, I'm focused on growing Binance right now. It's like it's just too many things to do." And I understood him as well, you know. But I thought, well, I had the opportunity to talk to him at some point. Well, I can come back at some point in the future and say, "Hey, remember we spoke about this at one point." But really, it's much stronger when there's already growth happening, results being shown, and all of that is going on in place. So, you know, it's something that could potentially happen in the next period, and definitely I'd love to do that. You know, there's ways that we can already use GPT-3 to optimize our services. And so that's kind of the low hanging fruit that we're going to use GPT-3 for. And you know, we can it'd be a much stronger case to showing up with something solid. Like, we're already using your tech for this. You know, how about we use our data to optimize just the whole healthcare aspect? And that's kind of what we were thinking. And but you can kind of already do that with the algorithm. So you just run it through the algorithm. So there's benefits, but I think after everything that I've learned and after everything that the team has learned, it's definitely important right now to just do these basic things that need to be handled and functioning correctly moving forwards. But at some point, if there's an opportunity to do that, we'll definitely take it. Let's see. I'm looking at more questions here. There's a good suggestion, Sam, on the tickers. DOC A, we already had DOC A reserved for the ticker itself. CoinLearned asked another question. I think I answered his question, how it's relevant. It's relevant because of the use cases that are built into the tech. Let's see. So look, this Saturday, it'll be I'll be airing on TV and on Monday as well. I think after that, also, I think soon after the airing, I'll post the airing on Twitter, and I'll also ask the question myself directly to KuCoin. And if anyone from the community can back up and support there, we can kind of do a group effort to get KuCoin to respond to us. You know, something good. Sure. Let's see. Sanders asking if I can confirm the upcoming events. So, okay. So timeline is this. We're this weekend, the PR campaign is officially kicked off with it airing. I'm also going to be filming more segments in the weeks to come. Like the next week, I'm filming another one, and then every month I'll be filming at the Nasdaq. I'm doing a 6-part series explaining the company and like from different perspectives. So that's going on. Really, there's going to be this is going to be growing more and more from a PR perspective, and in the next, you know, as the months go on from now, 6 months from now. I don't know the exact listing date, but our target is to have everything show at least 3 months of results, growth results from our launches. We're launching first in Mexico just because of the contracts that we have there. and then the US subsequently, not too far away from that, but we should be launched at least with our telemedicine services. The marketplace and the ad server and that functionality will be added around May or June to the current product. So that's how that's planning on going. So essentially, we plan on launching the telemedicine services, growing some with them, showing those results, adding the marketplace and ad server around May, showing about 2 or 3 months of results of growth with that in the US primarily. And then after that, doing the listing. That's the plan. So generally the timeline is about 6 to 9 months, realistically. And Sam is asking, can we do anything to support the project in general? Well, yes, definitely. You know, I wanted to give the community the tools to be able to help out. I think with this airing, I'll share the link of the airing, and we can, you know, I basically, with the same plan that I'm telling everyone right now, that's what I talk about on the first episode. So, you know, if that can be shared and we can get the KuCoin solution handled, that'd be great. I think more than just me posting something publicly on KuCoin's Twitter and saying, hey, you have 70 something million MTC that belongs to our users and our patients, and you know, we need to find a solution to get these out. What do you propose we do? You know, we need to have people from the community saying, hey, I know I've received messages directly on Telegram and things like that from people that tell me that they have 7 million MTC locked up in KuCoin and they can't get it out. And I mean, that's just one example, but I know there's a lot of people that have MTC locked up in KuCoin. So it'd be great to have like a joint community effort to try to resolve that. And if we see that there's no real good progress, you know, we can determine that within a matter of a few days even. I'll post a poll on Twitter and I'll ask the community if they want to do the screenshot and just reissue the token under Avalanche or pursue the bridge path. So I'll let the community make that decision. Everyone already knows the plan, and we'll see what KuCoin responds. So I would say that would be the first thing that I would request help on. If you guys can help out with the KuCoin situation after the airing, I'll post that, and we can all ask the question of KuCoin, how they plan on helping us resolve this. And then after that, just spreading the word with the content that will be coming out, and you know, generally bringing in more users and growing the awareness and building more of the brand in the public, in the eyes of the public. So I think there's Relvin asked, is there more caught up in other exchanges? I think there are some more caught up in other exchanges. I don't think the amounts are that large in comparison to KuCoin. KuCoin has a huge amount locked up in there that they have. But there are some in other exchanges. There probably are some. I mean, I think we have over 20,000 wallets out there that have MTC, so it's a huge amount. But yeah, the bulk of them are locked up in there in KuCoin right now. Okay, well, everyone, I appreciate it very much. Thank you for everyone that's joined. I'm very excited about these next stages, and I hope everyone enjoys the episode. It's not that long, but you know, definitely kicks off. I'm very happy to have filmed at the Nasdaq, and I hope everyone is having a great 2023. This first month has had a lot of positivity given to us and shown to us, and I think this year is going to be our year. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Gene, Relvin, Sam, Sandro, everyone for participating. You know, we'll be speaking soon yet again. Thank you for being here and the support from the very beginning. I appreciate it very much. Have a great weekend, everyone.